Hi, this is the rant on Shades of Us. I am Ramat. So today I'm going to be talking about something I have titled Discipline Bordering on Abuse. Now, if you're African and you grew up in the 80s or the 90s or any time before then, you probably had parents that beat the crap off you when you did wrong. Like, they will beat you, they will go in, they will punch, they will throw kicks. Sometimes they would take koboko, they would take their belts, they would take their slippers and beat you so bad. And sometimes you just ask yourself, like, am I this person's child? Is it right that they are beating me like this? And so most of us grew up like that. So when you see somebody else having that, or somebody that is being beaten like that, you never bother too much because you're like, my mother can beat me worse than that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this story, something that happened to me when I was younger, and my father is probably not going to like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So there was this day, you know how your parents tell you to stay at home, you're not supposed to go anywhere, just stay at home, right? So there was this particular day where I went to see friends and all of that, and my father came back home. And so I saw his car and I knew that one thing was certain. He was going to either beat me in public and shame me so that I never went out again. And I didn't want to be shamed. I didn't want my friends to see my father beat me. Like, we all knew our parents beat us very well, right? But I just didn't want my friends to see that. So I thought of this thing. I said, I'm going to go somewhere, loosen my hair and make it look like I went to braid my hair. And I waited and waited and waited, and I didn't have chance for me. And so I came back home. Here's where there was a flaw with the problem. I held my younger sister. She was maybe 2 years old at that point when this happened. So when my father came back and she saw his car, she screamed from afar, "Daddy!" And so I was trying to get her to go with me, but she broke out of my grasp and ran to my father while I was running away in the other direction. So already I had set myself up, because my younger sister would have said, oh yes, she was with me and I went somewhere. But I didn't come back because I was so scared. I knew he would beat me in public. So I was so scared and I didn't want to come back home. Then at maybe 7 p.m. I got back home. I knew it was dark. Most people had gone back inside. So my dad could punish me and all of that. And so when I got in, my father gave me this slap. You know how they literally tell you that you see stars? Yes, that day I saw stars. And so it was crazy because I couldn't even imagine. But that was nothing compared to what happened to me when my mom came in. Oh God, I can't even imagine the beating that I got. But you know, that was one of such things that happened in my house. It was normal. I didn't see that my parents did wrong or anything. I just felt that, you know, they corrected me. I did wrong and I got punished, and that was that. But then I had this friend again in my neighborhood. Then their parents would beat them so bad that they would have bruises on their body. They would have their skins, portions of their skins that was peeled out from the welt of the belt, pulling it out. And you know, it was horrible. But even they didn't see anything wrong with their parents beating them up. And then another friend again in that same neighborhood, their father used to, and I swear this is no exaggeration, if I had not seen this I would tell you that I had not seen it, but this is no exaggeration. Their father will tie them to their ceiling fan, right, and put it on number 1 so that it goes slowly as each of his koboko stick lands on their body, and they would have these welts all over them, and it would be so bad. But then again, we always just assumed it was normal. This is how things should be done. The final story I'm going to give is something that happened to me when I was in SS2. That's, if you're not from Nigeria, SS2 is I don't know what grade is this I'm going to call, but senior secondary school, almost leaving school. Anywho, so there was this day we got to school late, and surprisingly there was a prefect and I always got to school late. But this particular day we had this teacher who we knew that if he flogs you, your temperature will not be normal. So that day he was just giving people one whelp on just one koboko stroke, one of it on their backs. And this man gave me one, and I swear it, I didn't even know what was happening to my back, but I knew I was on fire. And so I went into the class, and it was when I got in that my classmate said, "Ramat, you have blood flowing through your back." I was like, "No, I don't." And so I went into the toilet and I took off my shirt. Not only had the cane cut through my uniform, it had torn my back, and I had blood gushing out. And you know how usually in school when they beat you, you're like, you want to be macho and all of that, you want to be strong and not cry, and then somebody is like, "Hey, yeah," and I broke down and I started crying, and it was really painful. And growing up, after having to deal with all of that and seeing that happen with my friends, we thought it was normal. But over time, we've come to realize that when we talk about abuse, I completely believe that people should be disciplined. I completely believe that people should be trained. Men should be trained, women should be trained, children should be trained. They should have good qualities, good character, and that you can discipline children. But I think for the most part, a lot of our parents were bordering on being abusive. Like, some of the discipline was just a bit too much. Like, imagine a father kicking his child, or imagine a mother using a pestle to hit a child, or imagine an uncle using the head of the belt, that's the metal part, to beat up a child. Imagine someone correcting you, say someone stole something. And these are things I saw, like if you steal, at that time they would take razor blades and cut your hand, maybe give like 3-4 marks and put pepper in it. These were things that were normal. Right? My mom told me of certain disciplinary things that her parents did to her, and trust me, you don't even want to hear such conversations. Imagine, and recently I even talked about it on the blog, about a young girl who supposedly burned food, and her boss, she was a maid. Well, technically she was a slave, because we are going to drop this calling young people maids and all of that. So this person took hot water and bathed this girl with it. I think maybe we can excuse our parents because they didn't know better, and excuse their parents because they didn't know better. But in this generation, starting 2018 or starting right now, we know better. We need to not hit people so horribly, beat them so horribly. You can correct without necessarily having to take the koboko and soak it in oil, as we know these things, right? And then they flog you and tear your skin. No, we need to stop all of this completely. And I'm going to tell you why. I kind of raised my younger ones because my parents were divorced, and so there was this time where I beat my younger sister so bad. It was so bad. I took out all of my anger, because probably my dad had beaten me earlier, and so all of the anger, I took it and just poured it on my younger sister, and I beat her so bad, right? And I bless God for my younger sister, and she told me afterwards, she was like, "Do you know that you are abusive?" And I never died like I died that day. Like, I never felt so much shame like I did, because I then realized that I was replicating what I had seen my parents do to me, and I felt it was okay to do that to my younger ones. And from that day, I've never raised my hand on my sister. Never. Like, she will piss me off, and I'll be like, "Girl, you better thank Jesus, because I'm a beat you, girl." But then I don't do it anymore. And that's how I hope to raise my kids. I don't want a situation whereby I am abusive to them in the guise of discipline. I don't want a situation where I injure them, draw blood rather, in the guise of discipline. And so I'm saying we should stop the abuse that borders on the discipline that we think we're doing that borders on abuse. But what do you think? Do you think there's anything wrong with it? Do you think that because your parents did that and you turned out to be a good person, that's a good way to raise a child? Or maybe a teacher's interaction with a student, an uncle with whatever the relationship, do you think that you can punch beat up people like that, and or do you think that it really needs to come to an end? That's basically what I am asking. And I come to the end of this episode of the vlog, and I hope we can talk about these issues. How can we put an end to the abuses that we have that are disguised as discipline? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and I hope that we can really discuss this and see how we can put an end to abuses that are disguised as discipline. Let's see how we can solve this, and I hope that this continues, the conversation continues, and we can do the best that we can. And make sure you stay to the end of the video log, because you can find ways to contact me. And I guess this is where I'm going to go, because I'm feeling really emotional right now. So thank you for watching. It's hugs and kisses from Amat. Bye.